Hello and welcome to Health, Homeopathy, and Me. I'm Raquel, and today I'm going to tell you a little history of homeopathy, about how it came to be, and about how the remedies are made. The therapeutic system of homeopathy was developed a little over 200 years ago by a German chemist and physician named Samuel Hahnemann. Dr. Hahnemann began his medical career practicing the conventional medicine of his day. But he was disgusted with the treatment methods currently in place and felt that he could not continue practicing medicine in a way that could cause such harm to his patients. As he was fluent in 7 languages and proficient in several more, he chose instead to make a meager living translating medical texts in order to support his wife and what were eventually 11 children. One day, while he was translating a medical text, Dr. Hahnemann was dissatisfied with the author's reasoning that cinchona bark, which is what we derive quinine from, worked to cure malaria because it was bitter. Hahnemann thought that that was kind of ridiculous because many of the medicines used in that day were bitter, and only cinchona bark seemed to have a great effect on malaria. He decided to run a little experiment on himself, and he took a preparation of the cinchona bark. And what he discovered was that as a healthy person taking the cinchona bark, he ended up with all of the symptoms associated with what was then called intermittent fever, but we call it malaria today. And he had a bit of a eureka moment. He postulated that the quinine, or the cinchona bark, as it was known then, cured malaria because it could cause the same symptoms in a healthy person. Now, of course, this wasn't a new discovery. In fact, Hippocrates, the father of medicine, had written almost 2,000 years before that there were 2 ways of healing a person. One is the use of contraries, which is what allopathic medicine is based on, and the second is the use of similars. For more about the law of similars and how homeopathy differs from allopathic medicine in that way, be sure to check out my video on the first pillar of homeopathy, the law of similars. Now, once Hahnemann had his epiphany, he proceeded to test the other commonly used medicines of his day. But he ran into a problem. You see, these medicines that they used were highly toxic. Things like lead, arsenic, mercury, belladonna, they all could cause great harm to someone who took them. And so Dr. Hahnemann needed to find a way to test these substances without harming anyone. And he began by diluting those substances. But as he diluted them to the point where they were not harmful, they also would not cause symptoms. And so he could not see what their symptoms were that they could cause to compare them to what they could heal. The story goes that one day he was so frustrated that he was sitting at his desk with a diluted vial, and he whacked it on the book that was on his desk. And something amazing happened. That vial that was succussed actually was able to cause symptoms in the healthy person without causing any permanent damage or harm. And later, it was used to successfully treat those same symptoms in a sick person. Over his lifetime, Dr. Hahnemann and his colleagues tested, or as we call it in homeopathy, proved, over 200 other remedies, and they cataloged them into detailed materia medica that are still relevant today. These remedies included not only those substances that were known poisons and known to cause symptoms in their crude form, but also those that were previously thought to be inert. Things like gold, platinum, silica, and lycopodium, which is a spore from a moss, which I used recently to help my son through a gastrointestinal illness. If you want to hear more about that, be sure to check out the video I did on it later. Okay, so what does this process of potentization look like? Well, you take 1 drop of the original substance and you dilute it into 99 drops of water or alcohol, and then it is succussed, or banged. This is called a 1C. Then you will take 1 drop of that 1C and you will dilute it into 99 drops of water or alcohol and succuss it again. This is a 2C, and this process continues until a desired potency is reached. The potencies I use most commonly for acute issues in my home is the 30C or a 200C. The potencies actually do go higher, all the way up into M potencies, and 1 M potency is 1,000C, so it has actually been diluted and succussed 1,000 times. A 10 M is 10,000C, and so on. There is another potency scale that is marked with an X, and that is 1 drop of the original substance in 9 drops of water, or 9 parts, 1 part to 9 parts. And the same process with the succussion and the continued dilution. X potencies, though they are less diluted than C potencies, are also less potent, and I don't tend to use them much. N potencies should be reserved for use under the care of a homeopath only, because in homeopathy, the more diluted and the more succussion that a remedy has gone through, the more potent it is, and the deeper an action it can have on the body. And M potencies really should be overseen by a homeopath. Once the potentization process is complete, the remedy is then either dispensed with a dropper in liquid form, or it is sprayed onto sugar pellets, can you see those, and given that way. Homeopathic remedies are regulated as drugs by the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. This means that all remedies sold in the U.S. must follow the precise guidelines set forth in the Homeopathic Pharmacopoeia of the United States, which is written on the label as HPUS. There are a few regulations to be aware of, however, as they impact the label and don't necessarily follow the homeopathic practice. The first is the expiration date. All remedies will have an expiration date on their label, but they can actually retain their usefulness far longer than that. There are actually homeopathic remedies that are more than 100 years old and that are still effective. This makes homeopathy very cost effective because you can purchase a remedy and it will retain its effectiveness until it is used up, even if that is 100 years from now. This gives it a huge advantage over herbs because those do lose their effectiveness relatively quickly. Write a whoops in the comments down below if you've ever had to toss a bunch of herbs because they were past their peak use date. I know I have, and I always felt like I was wasting so much money. I appreciate the fact that it meant that my family had been healthy that year because we didn't need them, but I hated feeling so wasteful. The second regulation is that homeopathic remedies must state a therapeutic indication on the label, which must be for a self-limiting, self-diagnosable condition like a cold or teething. Unfortunately, this fails to take into account the truly immense list of symptoms that each remedy can cover. So, if you are taking a remedy for a sore throat and it says constipation on the bottle, don't be surprised. The final regulation I wanted to mention is that all remedies will have a dosing schedule on the label. Remember that these regulations were written for all drugs and don't accommodate for the homeopathic method of prescribing that is so individualized that different people in different situations may need the same remedy at hugely different intervals. For more information about why dosing on a schedule is a bad idea, see my video on the law of the minimum dose. I'll link to it below. All right, that's all I have for you today. If you like this video, be sure to give me a thumbs up below. And my next video is going to cover what sorts of things you can treat at home and what sorts of things need the care of a professional homeopath. I'll also cover some common safety concerns like, is this remedy safe while I'm pregnant or breastfeeding? So if you don't want to miss out on any of my future videos, be sure to click the subscribe button followed by the alert button so you won't miss a thing. Thank you for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you again soon.